Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to Chicago, and welcome to Relativity Fest. I got to tell you, it's absolutely incredible to come on stage every year and see all of you gather together for our very special week. I love Relativity Fest, but it makes me really nervous to be up on stage every time. But I really love Fest. As it's the physical manifestation of this amazing community and ecosystem that you all have helped build. We have over 2,000 attendees this year, and you guys come from many disciplines. Lit support, your lawyers, developers, SQL DBAs, salespeople, and executives. Take a moment and look around the room. You're going to see your coworkers, your clients, your vendors, and your competitors. And what's special about this week is that whatever affiliation that you have with the person next to you, maybe it's your best client, or maybe it's that client who's the biggest pain in your butt, or maybe it's your fiercest competitor. It really doesn't matter this week, because over the next few days, we're all friends. And as friends, we're going to collaborate with each other, exchanging ideas, imagining and dreaming about the future and what can be done, how to solve more problems for our customers, and build stronger and more valuable businesses by doing more with relativity. I got to tell you, it's super inspiring, and I'm so grateful for you not only spending all this time with us this week, but for everything that you do to build this ecosystem. And I especially want to acknowledge a few of you, our academic scholars, paralegal and law school students, and their professors for taking an active interest to learn our industry and our software. Our relativity experts and masters, relativity pros that have proven their skills and expertise with the platform. Our Innovation Award nominees, those of you who have been nominated by your peers for the amazing work that you've done in our industry or for the unique ways that you've customized the software. Our community super users, those of you who are helping us get better through your contributions on our Relativity community site, and for all the ideas that you post about our product. Thank you. It's amazing what all of you do with the platform, and your energy and your enthusiasm of relativity is our fuel, and it's our motivation to build a great product for you. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do, for your support, for your patience, for being great stewards of the platform, for your business. Thank you. So, we're in this business of e-discovery, and I got to tell you, I really, really love this industry. And unlike this little boy here, he's made a determination that he wants to be a lit support pro, and it's good that this little boy has clarity in his life, because I had no idea that this industry even existed. And like many of you, I stumbled upon this industry, and it sucked me in, and it chose me. And I'm glad it did, because it's truly a privilege to serve this industry and to serve our customers. And we do this grounded in our mission as a company, a mission to help our customers organize data, discover the truth, and act on it. Discover the truth. I love this industry because the work that our customers do in this industry is noble. The work that you do in this industry is important. And it's amazing and motivating to hear the stories of you impacting real change in the world. There's Meta-E in using relativity and relativity analytics to explore the pharma reports and the surveys and all the communication to analyze the deniability that took form during the Flint water case, helping to uncover the truth why so many people were exposed to toxic lead poisoning. And Night Owl, they've developed a streamlined process in relativity to collect and analyze public commentary on specific environmental issues. And so the regulators and the officials now receive input in record fast time and with greater accuracy than ever before. And there's a professor at Michigan State University who, in conjunction with the Relativity Academic Partner Program, and his law students, is building an application, the FCC Explorer. And it's an application that facilitates the searches of documents contained in the FCC database, a database that is public but notoriously difficult to use. And the FCC Explorer is democratizing data for everyone who's concerned about what is happening, whether it's related to net neutrality or maybe it's a consultant trying to show last year's ROI on agency dealings. And these are just some stories that we have. I'm going to tell you, I love this industry because the work that you do in this industry is noble and it's important, and you're doing so much of it. You all continue to use the software in force, pumping in more data, supporting more cases and more users than ever before. And I got to tell you, I'm so grateful and thankful that you continue to put trust in our platform. Our industry is going through some significant change and transformation, and it really is the continuation of decades of evolution that began with the genesis of what it was when we started basically digitizing paper to help teams deal with large number of documents. You know, for those who were back then it was like the Wild West, and you guys built systems to scan OCR and code documents to make them accessible and searchable in these digital repositories. The genesis of our industry. The next, we move into an era that's defined by the emergence of e-discovery. And now the data volumes would significantly grow, and we would need to build systems to handle files natively so we didn't have to necessarily image them all to put them into a repo. And we also needed technology that could not only house large document repositories, but also support much larger review teams. And I got to tell you, the solutions in the era were like cutting edge and developed by let's support companies. Next, we move into an era that's been defined by the industrialization of e-discovery. And every year the projects got bigger, more data was collected, and the speed at which we would need to process, review, and produce data would need to significantly accelerate. Off-the-shelf software platforms became the standard. And this allowed for more specialization. And as a result, e-discovery technology evolved way more rapidly than ever before, while becoming affordable for a much bigger constituency. We saw investments in automation. We saw the emergence of text analytics and machine learning, accelerating what humans can do and in some cases, displacing them. And now, we're entering a new era. What to call it, I have no idea. But I do know we are going to kind of rethink and reimagine a lot of the things that we're going, and a lot of things are going to change. I'll tell you, the broad adoption of SaaS platforms will level the playing field and significantly free up a lot of the intellectual energy of all the practitioners of our industry. And they're going to take all that free time and push their craft forward. They're going to solve new problems, get into new areas to drive revenue, build proactive motions to prevent disruptive issues before they happen. They're going to win business, and buying decisions won't be based on price, they'll be based on value. I got to tell you, for those of you who've been in our space for some time, take a moment to reflect on these different eras of our industry. Who were the dominant players? Who were the thought leaders? Who reinvented themselves and thrived? Who were the casualties? What, if anything, could they have done differently? Expand your thinking even more and think about all the progress that was made in each of these eras, brought in by new and innovation solutions to markets. How exciting it was to see these new solutions emerge, problems solved, and what was traditionally seemed impossible became routine. And if you were directly making things happen, how exciting it was to be part of it. How exactly this new era will define our industry, I don't know. And I don't have a front seat into it. You do. We're just one of the tool makers, and fundamentally, we are just working to make things simpler and faster for you. But the one thing that I do know, that given the tools, this community will do amazing things. And I know you'll do it because I've watched you do amazing things for the past 10 years. As a software person, it's super exciting to be in the industry at this time, as there's so many dynamic companies and there's so many charismatic entrepreneurs working feverishly to give you the tools to shape the future. And our vision for what we want to do for you in our industry is simple, and it hasn't changed. And it's to simplify and accelerate, how we all conduct e-discovery by bringing it all together in an open and flexible and connected platform. And we're working towards making Relativity, your central hub. We want to make sure the platform is open and extensible, and it's fast and it's secure, and it's intelligent with embedded analytics and machine learning, and it provides very rich capabilities spanning the entire e-discovery lifecycle. We want to connect Relativity to everything, where identity can easily span across instances can connect to one another, and Relativity can connect to key sources of enterprise data and other market-leading e-discovery technologies. And our goal, we just want to make it easier and more seamless to automatically facilitate the transfer of data anywhere, reducing risk and significantly speeding up the process. And then we bring this community together, and with so many skilled professionals and organizations using the platform, we want to create an ecosystem where cross-party collaboration becomes easier. Best practices are shared. We share templates, we share applications, and we drive innovation at a much faster pace than ever before. And there's this vibrant and amazing community that invigorates and motivates all the members within it. An open technology platform connected and creating an amazing network effects for our users. This is what we ground our work in. And so we're entering a new era. What do we call it? Maybe it's the era that we transform e-discovery, we reimagine e-discovery. Maybe we'll just call it that, reimagine e-discovery. I got to tell you, I've thought about what powers this era are going to be the extensible SaaS platforms that will be the backbone of this industry, bringing speed, scale, AI and machine learning, strong security postures, and a global reach to anyone. And it's because of this is why Relativity One is such an important component of executing our vision. And the business transformation that we're going through as a company, as we transition our delivery model to SaaS, really has been quite the journey. When we first took the product to market in February of last year, it was truly a slog at first. We were learning how to become a SaaS company, and so much of our organization had to learn to do things differently. And we would slowly build momentum, and now we're live with the offering for over a year, and it's working really well for our clients. And I'm so thankful and grateful to all of our customers who have partnered with us during our business transformation. Your patience and your support and your guidance has truly been invaluable. Now, when you're working day in and day out, you sometimes forget to appreciate how far you might have come. And I'm sure, all of you have been there when you're working on maybe these very long projects and initiatives. And I often feel that way as it comes to our own journey at Relativity. And I want to tell you guys a personal story. 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a buddy about a hiking trip that my wife and I took in the summer of last year, and I brought up the pictures from the trip on my iPhone, and my buddy started to swipe through them. So here's a vista of Crested Butte. That's where we took our Crested Butte, Colorado. That's where we took our hiking trip. Here we go. This is Jessica overlooking the city. Hey, we went on a little biking trip. There was a big pile of snow in June. I thought that was interesting, so we took a picture next to it. Then my buddy kept on swiping. And here's a picture of I tried this coconut water and I thought it was amazing, so I wanted to buy more of it. I went with some buddies to a hot dog joint in the suburbs here called Gene and Jude's, and they really got the best hot dogs in the city. I would suggest you check it out. There was this picture of Tommy Boy in my phone. I'll often make fun of myself and refer to myself as the CEO of Tommy Boy, so I must have pulled this off of the internet and sent it to one of my executives or something. And the next photo was this. So this is a picture from our New Relic dashboards. And New Relic is the system that we use to monitor the performance and the end user experience of Relativity One. And back in June of last year, we just had three customers in the platform. I don't know how many users in it, but it wasn't a lot, because in a 24-hour period, they only looked at 637 documents, and then the average time it took to render the documents was 3.4 seconds. So this was like a Tuesday night. And when I saw this picture, it hit me, because 15 months ago, there was barely anyone using the product. And especially as you compare it to a day just a few weeks ago. This right here is a day in August where we had over 1,000 people in the system. They viewed over 200,000 documents in a 24-hour period. The median time it took to render the document was 1/10 of a second. The average time was 4/10 of a second. Right now we're really actively trying to eradicate these long-running navigations, and we had 876 of the ones that took 15 seconds, and then we had about 200 of these that actually timed out. We've really come a long way. And I got to tell you, now that we're fully immersed in delivering our SaaS product, I really have had the opportunity to truly embrace and understand and why it works so well for customers. And it's really centered around our ability to learn and react. We can log into these systems and we can watch the system breathe. And we get so much rich insight in terms of what is happening with the end user experience, what is happening inside the technology. And we can see where it's healthy, where it's sick. And through better operational visibility, we can make the product better. And there's nothing more rewarding than to implement a change and then immediately see the benefits by watching these numbers improve. I got to tell you, it's addicting. I'm addicted. My engineers are addicted. And through this delivery model, our company can absolutely give you the best experience with our product, hands down. We've made a lot of progress in just a year and a half, and today we have 29 customers in the platform who, through their step-up commitments in their final years, will see 673 terabytes of data under contract, and now Relativity One is 11% of our total revenue under contract. And by working, I want to just thank our customers, and by working so closely with our customers, we've been learning how to shape the offering to best support you. And you've been telling us what you want from Relativity One, and we've been working very hard to give it to you. You've told us that you really love having access to the latest of what Relativity has to offer, but upgrades need to be predictable, and you need the space to test your integrations and your applications. You've told us to open up in more geographies to help with your own international expansion. You've told us that protecting your customers' data is super important to you, and that you love what we're doing. You love it what we're doing in this space. But our most sophisticated customers have been asking for more. You told us that scale and throughput is important, but it's not necessarily about land speed records, but good, consistent performance. You told us that you want flexible data tiers to help you better manage your subscription because you use Relativity in different ways, and a matter has different stages in its life cycle. Finally, when I showed our customers those New Relic dashboards, the first response is always I want that. So let's walk through what we've done to improve Relativity One for you. So the beauty of running a SaaS platform is that you can update the software at any time. We can do it to improve performance, resolve your issues, remediate security vulnerabilities, or add new functionality. And in fact, over the last 90 days, we've made hundreds of updates to the software. this is great, but what you told us is that you wanted more predictability to when you get new functionality, or we might do anything to break your integrations. And so we moved to a quarterly release cycle for feature and API changes. And we named them after Midwest prairie flowers because we have an amazing creative team and they thought that would be cool. Caused all kinds of chaos in our organization moving to this, but I love it now. And with each cycle, there's 5 months to it. First, we're going to update your preview environment and your sandboxes. And from there, you'll have 2 months to kind of explore the new features of Relativity and make sure that all your scripts, extensions, and applications work. And in the 3rd month, we'll then upgrade your tenant where all the new functionality becomes available. And then that version will be live for the next 3 months. And along the way, we'll continue to update the software on a regular basis and giving you security improvements and performance enhancements and defect fixes. So a new quarterly release cycle. So a major goal of us updating the release cadence was to allow you to more easily consume the release and update your apps and integration so you can have like a much faster innovation cycle. And so, Relativity One does provide all the same platform extensibility that you have in the on-prem product. You can connect directly to SQL, you can write a relativity script, maybe a simple event handler or two, or develop full-on applications. So we give you these sandbox environments where we make it really easy for you to test your apps in an isolated environment. You can have multiple sandboxes and choose if the sandbox has the current production version or maybe the upcoming quarterly release. And for developers, we're making it easier in Relativity One to develop apps by introducing tools to automatically update applications across your instances via publishing apps into a secure application repository in Relativity One. Let me show you how it works. So the workflow is something like this. So you'll basically use your developer VM to build your app, and then you'll publish it into the R1 app repository. Then you'll log into your sandbox, where you can pull the application in, do your testing. If there's an issue, you can continue to iterate on it. When you're ready to deploy, you just push it into the app repository, then you pull it in. Let's say your thing is good now. Now you're safely to pull it in production. You just log into your production instance, pull it right in, off you go. There's some really cool work that's happening in this space, and the team is doing an amazing job here. We're also partnering with our most popular ISVs to make sure that their apps are ready for Relativity One and ensure that with every release, they are supported and ready to go. So Relativity One, it gives our customers a global reach, and you've been dictating and coaching us on which markets for us to enter. The platform is now available in 5 geographies, with our most recent being in Brazil, and by the end of the year, we plan to be available in the European Union by deploying in the Netherlands, and then Australia. So a lot of great progress in expanding our global footprint. So for all organizations, security is a super important topic, especially in any type of system where you're parking your data, because so much of your value and your reputation is tied into your ability to protect your data and the data of your clients. And we've been making huge investments in our security program, which is built around 3 main pillars of preventative defense, automated security processes, and transparent operations. And so when we mean preventative defense, our goal is to anticipate threats and attacks before they happen by staying ahead of our adversaries. And our security team, Calder 7, has an amazing team of engineers, analysts, and subject matter experts really tasked with protecting your data. A big part of our program is automating everything, from the collection and contextualizing of all that log and machine data to our workflow for managing threat and risk mitigation, and the systems in our software development lifecycle that help ensure that we don't introduce vulnerabilities in the first place. And then finally, we've developed hundreds of operational controls to ensure that we follow sound security practices. And the scope of our efforts include everything that we do, from the development of our application to the operation of it. And we've gone through all the rigor to achieve the ISO 27001 certification, along with SOC Type 1 and Type 2. Now, we're rolling out a couple new cool security services that I'm super excited about. And the first one is related to our SIM. You'd be like, what's a SIM? I'll explain to you right now. So as Relativity works, it generates a lot of machine data from the different components of the platform, and all that machine data is sent to a database that we call the SIM. And then our security team will then work with the SIM, and they'll analyze these logs for threats and vulnerabilities. They'll contextualize the data with almost 200 intelligent feeds to parse security-related events. They build rules and implement machine learning that will attempt to detect nefarious activity and continually fine-tune the system based on new threats and usage. Now, we do an amazing job in this space, and we're definitely exhausting all the steps for a thorough analysis, but there can always be a possible use case that only an internal security team might know. For example, when maybe the executives are traveling in a different country. And so sometimes a customer may want access to these logs to perform their own analysis. And so we're basically building capability where we allow our customers to connect between our SIM and theirs, or their MSPP, so they can get access to this information, giving customers the capacity to monitor their own environment if they choose to. We're super excited about this, and we call this Project Saturn. Yeah, so some security nerds might really appreciate it. Here's another thing that we're doing that's super cool, and our customers, in order to have full custody of their data, many customers have been asking us if they can provide and have control of the encryption keys that are used to encrypt all of their data at rest. And I'm excited to share that by the end of the year, we'll be providing this capability. Let me show you how it works. So our customers will provide and store the key that you want to use to encrypt your data. Our systems will then use that key to encrypt all of the persistent data in your tenant, the SQL data files, the files, the analytics indexes, the DT search indexes, the audit data stored in the Elasticsearch clusters. So, and as long as we have access to your key, we can access your data. Now, if something happens and you no longer want us to have access to your data, you simply go into your key vault, you revoke the key, and then essentially your tenant in Relativity One is bricked. Without your key, no one has access to it. And if you want to light up the environment back again, well, just put the key back in and access is restored. The progress that we've made in this space has been amazing, and I'm super excited to continue to innovate and lead with our security posture. So this is another area that I'm super excited to talk about, and that's our new offerings around our data tiers. And so when we first went to market with the product, the licensing of it was pretty straightforward. Sign up for a subscription, and your subscribed amount would be the amount of data that you would publish in a review workspace, and then we would allocate a generous amount of storage in your staging area so you can store your pre-processed data, inventory files, and your exports, and house your ARM archives. Now, what we've learned is that you actually need more tools to help manage your subscription. And so we introduced two new storage tiers, repository and cold storage. A repository workspace effectively can be used for early case assessment or building superstructures of documents and work product that could be used in future matters. It's a workspace that's specifically designed for this type of use case. It has a slightly limited feature set, but a much more cost-effective rate. And with cold storage, we're making it easy for our customers to take any workspace and park it away for a fraction of the storage fee. And once in cold storage, it's very easy to get out and make it active again. Let me show you how it works. Okay, so when you take data in your raw data, you're gonna upload it through the Relativity One Staging Explorer into your staging area. You can then take your data, then process it all into your repository workspace. And then in your repository workspace, this is where you're gonna do all your culling, run your search terms. You can maybe run some like analytics and machine learning to identify your reviewable set. You're gonna push that into your workspace. You're gonna conduct your review. Then you could bring like the coding decisions back into the repository workspace for future reference. And then when you have the next matter, you can use all that information to define that reviewable set. And then if you have then when you run productions, bring those back into the repository too for future reference. Again, continue to leverage the repository to help define future reviewable sets. When you're done with your case, you can park it away for cold storage if you think it's going to come back. And if you think it's done, we'll just arm it and park it in your staging explorer or in your staging area. So there you go. Staging repository, review, cold storage, and ARM are five very powerful tools that we're giving you to help manage and get the most out of your Relativity One subscription. Cool. So one of the main benefits of Relativity One is its speed and its ability to burst resources to tackle large jobs, and it's super fun to show some of the high throughput jobs that we have ran through the system. We continue to make the system faster and faster every month, and so you have it when you need it. Upload speeds north of 100 gigabytes an hour, processing 2 terabytes of data in under a day, imaging over 650,000 documents in just an hour, producing 1 million images in just 3 hours. Great land speed records. And I think it's very comforting for our customers to know that they have the ability to burst to obtain this capacity when needed. But what we're really working towards is ensuring that you have consistent, good throughput, and we've been optimizing the system to do that. And so close to 5,000 processing jobs, 360 million documents, average discovered rate of north of 20 gigs an hour. 5,000 productions, average throughput, 180,000 images an hour. You can see the stats on imaging. Ensuring that we can consistently provide a good experience for all your end users across all of your active workspaces, including smooth operation of your batch processes, is a major tenet of Relativity One. And so, we know that speed and scalability are important, and that there's a lot of value in knowing how Relativity is working for you, especially as it relates to end user actions and batch operations. And so a big area of focus has been performance transparency, and we're working on building a set of dashboards to give you real-time insight into how the system will perform. And so you'll be able to go into Relativity and understand your doc-to-doc rates, your query speeds, how fast some of your batch processes went. You can track individuals through the system, so if you received a call saying document viewing is slow, you can open it up and you can spy on them and then see what's happening, where they're coming from, what documents they're looking at. So more to come on that front. So I'm really proud of the progress we have made since we all met here last year, and we really couldn't have got here without our customers. Over 6,000 users in the system, 364 active terabytes in the system, 10,000 workspaces. We've processed over 100 terabytes of documents, peak activity of over 1,100 users in a single day. I got to tell you, the numbers are great. The numbers are great, but hearing the stories from our customers has been, truly inspiring. And so, every year during the keynote, I invite a few customers on stage, and we talk about the amazing things that they're doing in the software, the amazing things they're doing in the industry and the product. And so we're going to do something different this year, and we're going to create like a talk show in the morning, late one morning with Andrew Sieja. So let's set up the stage, please. Okay. They should have told me to dance. That would have been better, right? All right. We're set up. Good. Okay. All right. So my first guest My first guest is Lori Mazzola from Epstein, Becker and Green, and I got to tell you, unfortunately, Lori got into a car accident last week. I think last week Friday, and she's got a busted foot and she can't travel, and so we had to improvise a little bit today. And so she's made this little video. She's made this little video for you guys that I want to play right now, and then I'm gonna tell Lori's story. Please play the Lori video, please.
Hello, Relativity One. This is Lori Mazzola, IT Director for Epstein, Becker and Green. I also head litigation support for the firm. I planned to be there today, but unfortunately a small accident clipped my wings. So instead, Andrew Sieja has graciously agreed to tell my story. The story how moving to Relativity One has transformed the complexion of e-discovery in our firm at a national level. Thank you, Andrew, but you better do a good job.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thank you, Lori. So about 3 months ago, I was having dinner with Lori and the managing partner of the firm, and Epstein, Becker and Green is a national law firm, 14 offices, a few hundred partners, and they recently made the transition over to Relativity One. They signed late last year, and we've migrated all their data probably by April. And when we were meeting over the summer, we started talking. I'm like, "So Lori, how's it going?" And she was like, the first part was really rough, and that was related to like the migration. But she's like, once we got all of the data migrated to the platform, we really started to see all the benefits of Relativity One. And I'm like, okay, like continue. And then she went off on this beautiful rant. And she was like, first, my staff is so much happier. It's because they've been in this industry for some time, and they're really excited about the craft. And when they came on board, they really wanted to work with Relativity, but it just they've been spending so much time in dealing with technical issues and dealing with performance issues and managing the next patch and the upgrade, which is kind of crazy because they were also working through a managed service provider. And they're doing all this technology stuff, and they can't be the legal practitioners that they want to be. And now with Relativity One, they can do that work. And as a result, they're having more fun. They're engaging with all the new technology. They're applying it with on the different projects. And as a result, my team is a lot happier. Wow, that's really cool. And then the managing partner of the perm, he piped up and he was like, "Yes, and the partnership is happier too." And we like having more control over their projects. We prefer to work with our own people, and it's working really well. And there's a consistent experience with the software, so it's really working well for the legal team as well. And then Lori is like, "Oh yeah, and we're making more money too." And it's because our lit support folks are actually doing much more substantive work on their client engagements, while we can actually bill that back to our clients. It was an amazing transformation story, and I really wish that she was here to tell it because she does it so much better than me. So hopefully, Lori, you're okay with that. Cool. So for our next guest, he's been in the industry for 25 years. Has written 3 books on cybercrime, and is consulted on many high-profile civil and criminal cases around the world. He's the e-discovery and forensic manager over at Rio Tinto. Please welcome to the stage Carl Obeyi. Hey, how you doing?
Bad.
You looking good this morning?
Thank you.
How are we doing?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, did you like the energy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always
thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We really appreciate you coming on board. So, Carl, you flew all the way from over the UK. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who's traveled all over the world to come to the conference, by the way. Yes.
Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on over at Rio Tinto these days.
Okay. A couple of years back, 20 years thereabout, when I started legal practice, it became very evident going forward that the practice of law was going to be inextricably linked with the development in technology, given the substantial reliance on computers and digital devices. So I consciously specialized in that area, qualified as a computer systems engineer, moved forward and qualified as a computer forensic expert, and coupled that with e-discovery. I have brought and fused all of that ability to address some of the very challenging problems confronting Rio Tinto in terms of managing its global challenges around the world.
Cool. And so, like, you're at Rio Tinto. You're thinking about like a broader technology change. Like, what was happening?
Some context is very important here. Rio Tinto is a global company with business footprint in about 35 countries around the world. This business concerns run across jurisdictional borders with disparate legal regimes. We were having in-house at that point in time some very disparate systems to deal with e-discovery matters. And currently, if you've been following the press, there's been a lot of interfacing between Rio Tinto and some of the most robust regulatory bodies around the world. The SEC here in the United States, SFO in the UK, you have the ASIC in Australia, the ATO in Australia, and in fact, the concern was simply whether or not we were properly positioned to address all of these challenges. Stephen Story, the head of operations, and Hugh Bigwood, who heads the ethics and integrity team, posed the challenge to me when I came on as a consultant, and it was simply, how do we effectively deal with these challenges and aggregate efficiencies going forward?
Across the entire organization.
Absolutely.
And so you picked Relativity One. Thank you, by the way. So tell us a little bit about the decision. Yes.
My simple response when that challenge was posed was, I smiled and looked at them and said, give me the budget for Relativity One. And they did.
It's good. And so, global deployment, we can support all your, support the business all over the world. There's over close to 40,000 employees, a lot of activities happening. You're a pretty recent customer, but you've been using like the product in earnest. Tell us just about like your quick experience with it. What's it been like?
Frankly, the decision to adopt Relativity One was simply not just based on cost. There were other tangential matters we had to examine. Primarily, of course, was the movement to the cloud, which substantially saved on the cost of hardware, and also brought in additional advantages like not being very concerned with version controls and upgrades, because all of that was done at the back end. So it was very important that we did not waste too much capital and productive time on all of that back end.
So you got going right away.
Absolutely. But even more important, we took time, because at Rio Tinto, we do like to examine the details. We took time to really examine how the inherent technology was deployed within Relativity One. And what was very salutary for me was in terms of the search methodologies and analytics. I looked at the latent semantic indexing, and what was very encouraging there was that it was actually dealing with mathematical algorithms instead of just dealing with dictionary terms. And that was important for me, because I thought it moved search methodologies and metrics from the realms of just theoretical dictionary terms to an empirical science, because we were dealing with mathematical algorithms. But the other bit of it which we examined, which was very important also, was how much time was the platform going to save us? And that also necessitated looking at some of the inherent tools in the system. And one of which we looked at, you would recall in the industry here that part of what was very time consuming was indexing the data you've ingested. And what was very salutary was that for the structured analytics, you're doing your email trading, near text dedupe, language classifications, you did not require to run a full index. That was very impressive for me, and that saved a lot of time. We were also concerned with the fact that the relativity integration point also made it possible for us to mess around with workspaces, move them around without necessarily inventing the wheel. So all these were very time-saving features. But very interesting also was the active learning component, which I took time to really look at and made plenty of sense to me, because What I think Relativity One succeeded in doing is actually simplify a process and took it out of what ordinarily is referred to as a black box technology. Because invariably what we saw with that model was a situation where we could deal with volume of data in simple binary metrics, yes or no. And the icing on the cake for that for me, Andrew, was simply the fact that we could validate the process through the illusion test. Because part of the problem with adopting predictive coding, artificial intelligence, was simply, do we understand the technology enough?
How do you prove the results? Exactly.
But I think what was actually achieved with the deployment of active learning within the space of Relativity One was stupefyingly magnificent. It simplified the process, and that was great.
I love it when people call their products simplifying it, like stupefying magnificent.
Yeah, so that was great.
Carl, my man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. If you want to hear more from Carl, he's got a session here, Rio Tinto, a corporate success story. Please go check it out. And let's make room for like our next guest, Carl.
Thank you.
Our next guest is the president of D4 Special Counsel, Lori Chamberlain. Please welcome us to the stage. How are you?
Great, thank you.
We're always trying to do something new here, right? That's part of like Relativity, is just inventing all the time. I just need some coffee now, huh? Yeah, very good. So, we've been D4 has been a customer of ours for many, many years, and we've had an arrangement with Special Counsel as well. But back in late of 2016, D4 and Special Counsel came together, and so tell us a little bit about why you think D4 and Special Counsel are special and unique.
So Special Counsel has been a market leader in the doc review space for years and years, and we started transforming ourselves to a true consulting company, but we needed to be able to provide more of the left side, from forensics, collection, information governance, and we started dabbling with that and doing some proof of concept, and really needed to go out and acquire a company to be taken seriously in the space. D4 allowed us to do that, but we never intended to be a technology company. We really wanted to merge our two organizations to continue our journey on consulting.
Cool. And I love this graph. This is like speaks a little bit about the kind of the momentum that you've seen after the companies came together. Practically doubling your user count, doubling your the amount of data that you've been pumping in the system. What's really driving that momentum right now?
So I have to tell you, you love this slide, and while yes, it looks awesome, I'd like to say this is the start of the beginning for us. Really, we've seen some phenomenal adoption from our clients that really have trusted us for years and years to give them sound advice and what technology to use. So this is a piece of the story, but I like to believe this is the start of what's to come. And really, our Special Counsel clients at a local and regional level, as well as the ones that are in the news, have really embraced what we're doing.
Cool. You're part of a business unit in a giant company. You're doing really well. If you're doing really well, you probably get access to a lot of dollars in investment. You're thinking about really expanding your technology footprint, and I'm really proud of this because you were deeply looking at, hey, do we expand all our stuff that we have today, or do we just do a major commitment with like Relativity One, and you end up signing on a 100 terabyte commitment with the product. Tell us a little bit about like the thinking and the rationale there.
Yeah, so realistically, we wanted to show you all and our client base our serious commitment to this cloud-based offering. And we have about 70 locations that if we were going to provide quick discovery for some of the smaller players that don't necessarily have their own instance or their own commitments with Relativity, we wanted to make that more accessible for the local user, and this helps us do that. Also internationally, we're in China and we're in the UK, but I was in meetings last week with our global C-suite, and they want us to take this everywhere globally, and we're in about 60 countries right now. There's no way we could do that unless we were using Relativity One.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you decided to make the leap with us. We're here for you, and thank you, Lori. Thank you, Carl, for coming up on stage.
Thank you.
Please give our guests a nice. Thank you. Great, thank you. I got to tell you, it's super inspiring to hear, the stories from our customers and how they're having like success with our product. Now let's get deep into the product and some of the new capabilities that we're introducing and coming to market with. And let's first start with the work that we're doing in processing. Our customers have been using the engine in earnest, and so far this year they've ingested over 100,000. They've ran 100,000 jobs in the engine, discovered close to a petabyte of data, and billions and billions and billions of documents. And what I love is really hearing the stories of when people first used the product and their experience with it. So Law and Order, hit a point where they really had to do something different. They had unsupported file types, manual work, and they were trying to get all these exports into Relativity. And so they're like, hey, let's just try Relativity processing on this project. It was a big project, 7 terabytes of data, 32 million documents. They used Relativity for the entire process, including calling the junk data. They completed the project in 4 weeks and saw a time savings about 25% of their legacy solution and 75% reduction in their data footprint. And it really was the proof that they needed in order to start pushing more and more projects through the full platform. And in the second week, one teammate texted the other, wow, this is making my life so much easier. BDO, in a similar situation, had a huge project come through, and they calculated there was no way, using their existing technology, they would be able to handle the job quickly or efficiently. And so they put Relativity processing to the test, and in the first 7 days of the project, they published close to 2 terabytes of data, nearly 4 terabytes of when the project was complete, all in half the time. This was their very first job, and now they're all in. Foley and Lardner, running thousands of jobs in the engine to support the hundreds of matter the firm is running. They no longer need to think about it. Okay, so Foley and Lardner is our very first customer. And so in getting ready for the keynote, and this was in the deck, I was like, guys, right, this is our very first customer. This is getting a reference from my mom, right? So but I'll take it. Thanks, Mom, and thanks for the Foley folks. We're working hard to make processing a non-event, and in order to do that, we need to make the product faster and more stable. We need to make it easier to use, easier to operate, and more programmable. We got this thing called Quick Create. It makes it super easy to set up a large number of processing sets. All you do is set up your stage data in such a way appropriately. You point it to the folder, and then Relativity automatically create the processing sets, the data sources, and now you are ready to kick off your job, saving you a ton of time. Worker monitoring allows you to kind of actively understand what all of your workers are doing. You can reprioritize jobs, kill stuck processes, all doing it from the web. You've told us, a lot of our customers, they've invested a ton in automation, and they've been asking us to continue to improve the programmability of Relativity processing, and we have. In fact, we've been making so much progress increasing the coverage, API coverage of the entire system. If you wanted to run an entire project via code, well, you can. Check this out, it's super cool. And so now we have code where you can effectively create your workspace, update data using rows, create your profiles, your data sources, your custodians, your processing sets, inventory your job, run the discovery job, publish it, create the DT search index, create your search, run the search, tag the documents, image them, run the job, create the production, stage it, run it, export, download. To me, this is super cool. For some of you, are like, what does that mean? Here are some of our innovation award nominees, past and present, who've been really taking advantage of the APIs and developed some great new solutions. Please make sure you attend the TED Talks in the Community Pavilion and vote for this year's award. We continue to make investments in the tools to build your case strategies in Relativity. And last year, I gave you a preview of transcript support in case dynamics. And our goal with the product is to give you a solution where you can just organize all the facts and your exhibits and your depositions and the transcripts, along with the discovery documents, and seamlessly link it all together. And it's been super energizing to hear some of the wins in the field that you have in using the software. Here's how Reed Smith is utilizing case dynamics as they represent a global pharma company in a very large multi-district litigation. And they're using the software to organize hundreds of transcripts and depositions and allowing over 300 attorneys to develop a unified defense strategy. And, and as they were bidding for the case, they outbid 9 other law firms on this particular case because of their innovative approach to the case with the technology. Very cool. So recently we've introduced the ability to handle like video transcripts in the system. So let me just let's quickly take a look.
Do you have a secretary?
Let me show you how it works.
Does anybody there have a secretary?
Yes.
Have you ever heard a secretary use the term photocopy?
No.
Have you ever? Do you have machines there where I can put in a paper document, push a button or two, and out will come copies of that paper document, also on paper? Do you have such a machine?
Yes, sir.
What do you call that machine?
Xerox.
There you go. I love this video. I was on a phone with a very long-time customer of ours, and he had a pretty good question for me. He was like, "Hey, sometimes Andrew, I think like you're spreading yourself too thin, and you're investing in all these areas. And why are you investing in transcripts and case dynamics?" First is we truly believe that legal teams will get a tremendous amount of value from the technology when we do it right, and as a result, to get more value from Relativity. We believe that linking all this discovery data and the facts and the issues and the transcript exhibits, it's going to streamline the workflow and allow them to be better practitioners and consolidate the knowledge. And then finally, we just think there's a huge opportunity to innovate in this space by bringing all these capabilities together. And it's more than just bringing the core functions together, but then how do we leverage the work product we use and the machine learning? And this is still a fairly new proposition, and there's only a handful of groups are trying to do this in earnest. It's truly a journey, and it's a transformation to reimagine how this process is done. So more work to come, and amazing work from the team so far on this. So now let's get to some of the new capabilities with Relativity Analytics, and I just want to kind of ground it in a problem that we've all kind of faced. A huge challenge that we all deal with in working with our document collections is managing all the different variations of people and how they're referred to in emails. And so, for example, they have all these could be all the different aliases that might exist for Tommy Boy. And if you wanted to find all the documents from Tommy Boy, you would need to construct a search like this. Okay, it's not great. So you first got to know what the alias is, and then you got to put it together. Here's another way that you can do it. Let's say, for example, you not only needed to find all the documents from Tommy Boy, or maybe that was sent to him in one of the different aliases, one of the different fields, and so you would have to construct the search on the left for every different field. You might get kind of lazy and just do the approach on the right. That has problems associated with it too. You can be over-inclusive or under-inclusive. So not a very good solution. And so, with a new capability with Relativity Analytics, we're basically, we're combing through the system and we're normalizing all these aliases into one person, and we create a reference for it, which we call an entity. And so with that, you basically go from once you run your data set through name normalization, you go from running your search on the left to the search on the right. And if you are looking for, every single document that has some type of reference to, or Tommy was a participant in the communication, we actually create a new field, and we'll tag the document with all the different entities that participate in it. So you go from having to run a real crazy search to something that's really, really simple. Now, what's really exciting about what we're doing here is that we've made the entity a first-class citizen in the workspace, and it's extensible. And so you can create additional metadata on the entity and use it in your data set to make it much more richer and intelligent. And so, for example, I can add additional attributes for the company, for the role, for the department, the expertise, whatever you want, you can give the entity a profile. And so let's think about this example. If someone asks you to provide a reviewable set of documents that contain all the communication between your executive team and your board of directors, think of the workflow or the crazy searches that you'd have to put together to find those documents. It would be heinous. And so what you can do, once you've enriched your entities with this additional metadata, this would be your search. Pretty cool. Let us show you how it works. Demo Dan. All right. Give it up for Demo Dan, please.
Thank you.
Demo Dan Miller.
Demo Dan with the quotes around the full thing.
Demo Dan.
Continue it.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Can we show the, oh, good.
Okay, so we are on our new entities object. So it's got all that enriched data you were talking about. So the standard stuff we were used to have, like full name. We've also added some like custom stuff. We've got like my demo highlights from previous years, like calling out the stage.
So that was metadata that you enriched on it.
We
yes.
we put this in there. I wear the same sweater every year. We crashed quips a couple times.
Yes.
All that fun stuff. We can also go through and look at our contact information. This is actually pulled in from Active Directory.
Got it.
So we were able to enrich the object with all that stuff.
So basically, we've imported the entity store from the Active Directory, and then when we ran name normalization, it like knew that Dan Miller was this, and then linked it to that particular entity.
You got it. And
okay.
Down here, we've got all the aliases. So this is just looking at a handful of emails over 6 months of data, and you can see all these different entities that the system has identified and resolved to me as an individual. And what gets really powerful is as we scroll down, we can see the benefits of that. But before we do that, just all the information about me as a participant in this case is plugged in. My involvement in a legal hold, so I've got an active legal hold here. I've got a processing data source. But down here at the bottom, we're coming in kind of cold here. So we've got a document list. We've got all the documents where I'm a custodian. The records have been collected from me. You can see all the documents where I've sent the email, all the documents where I've received it. But you referenced that participants item a little bit earlier. What's really powerful about this is looking at every single instance where I'm involved in an email. And it's not just looking at that top row, that top email. It's looking at the entire conversation. So this gets super powerful when we're talking about identifying documents that you want to redact, building out a priv log, because sometimes people drop off of email chains. If you're just looking at the top, we're going to miss that. But the system now goes through, looks at all the different messages, and resolves it all to this one alias. And so the entity is an amazing one-stop shop.
Everything about that person.
Everything about this person. It's one source of the truth. Everyone can add to this thing, and everyone builds
and we can build upon it, use it from case to case.
You got it. It's
great.
Huge. But it also has huge impacts on how you use and browse through your documents. So here's just a simple dashboard. And while this was usually just like a custodian, right? It was just limited to the documents I'm collected. Now we've got all this rich information powering which documents we're displaying. So here's the documents that I sent. We've pulled in the aliases, so you can see all the different aliases of my entity. And we can spin through and really start to see how this works as we look through different other widgets and performing some quick searches. So for instance, if I wanted to make one of those searches like you showed in the slides there, if I want to search for documents where I sent all those different crazy aliases, it's just as simple as making a simple click, right? So we can clear that out. But we can also start to do some kind of slicing and dicing. So here we've got a cluster, right? We can see if we zoom in, we've got stuff about analysis, communication, entities, all that stuff. So it's kind of about what we're showing here.
Yes.
So if we wanted to zero in on those documents, we just click, run a search, and our widgets update to show us who the senders and recipients are of those messages. And it looks like Peter and Jim, the technical product manager and product manager for this product, are talking about this stuff the most. We can also look at this not just in relation to concepts, but terms. So here's a bunch of search terms that we've run across this set. So this is just actually like 6 months of data where we're talking about the Keynote.
So this is real data.
This is real data.
Internal people talking about Keynote. So the Keynote was
got it.
like the net.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So it's my documents and then Peter and Jim from the product team. And if we look at documents about swag, pull up, it's only just like a quick little handful here. We've got these 4, and we can see that I'm one of the entities here. So if I was coming in cold and I just said, oh, here, Dan Miller sent this email, I can click right from the document list. It takes a second to spin up, and I'm going to jump over to the Entities tab, and I got that whole rich interface to understand everything about what's going on. So whether you're coming in it from the entity, coming from the documents, you've got a really clean, simple way to navigate through, follow your thought pattern, learn a ton.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you, Demo Dan. Back to the deck, please. So entities as a first-class citizen really adds a new dimension to everything, especially as we wire this concept across the entire platform, from legal hold to all the way to how people in organizations that you define in case dynamics. It's going to make creating a privlog a snap. And just sit and open up your imagination of how you'll be able to leverage this in your project. And I think capturing and cataloging rich information on your entity should be the first part of your review, and then this information can be used throughout the entire life cycle of the case. And since it's an object in Relativity, you can front load this information from a load file or import the entity store from a previous matter, create a centralized entity store, and use it from project to project. And as your legal teams continue to learn more about your client entities, your knowledge store expands. Now, entity and norm normalization is the foundation of a new capability that we're building to help you understand how the actors in your case are talking with each other, and that's communication mapping. Let us show you how it works. Computer, please. Yes.
Okay. So now we have a new widget that we've added to that same workspace, the communication analysis widget. So I'm just going to double-click on the hamburger and zoom in. Underused shortcut there. So here we've got a map of all the communication of all the 700, 800 documents that we collected from these 3 custodians. So what we're looking at here, each individual node is a person. The size of the node is the number of documents that they're the communicator or entity on. And the width of the line between the different nodes represents the volume of communication. Bigger node, more communication. So again, this is just about getting ready for Keynote. And if you look, the biggest node on here is actually not one of the people we collected from. So if we hover on Laura, we get a quick preview of the documents that Laura is involved with. And this makes sense. Laura did all of the project coordination, project management, keeping us all on track, scheduling a ton of meetings. For this Keynote.
Yes.
So it makes sense that she has the most
Laura.
documents, thank you, Laura, of all of the people, even though she wasn't actually collected. If we want to click on Laura, again, it makes just a quick condition, and we kind of recenter the universe around her and see just who she's communicating with. We can also do some really quick exploration by selecting a custodian. So let's just focus on Peter's document. So Peter is the technical product manager for this work. He and the team did an amazing job here. And you can see Peter's talking a ton with Jim, the product manager, on this as well. But there's also some fun stuff going on. You can just really easily explore, Jenny here. So we can zero in on Jenny.
Oh, she's giving a session on the
You got it. So she's on the instructional design team, but she's doing a session about analytics here. So she's talking with the technical product manager, the product manager, making sure that she's got everything squared away.
What's that little thing going out in space?
Yeah, so we've got little kind of floating nodes up here, and interesting stuff starts to happen. So this is the Moonwalkers. This is the Moonwalkers, which is the team that did the development for this. So it's interesting, though, because Peter's a member of the Moonwalkers. He's on the thing, so it's identified him.
On the Moonwalkers team.
And we can do that, and there's
cool.
we can kind of trace back all the way through all the different communications.
Cool.
Super cool. We can also, let's just kind of unzoom this here and make it a little smaller. Go back to all of our documents. We can also do fun stuff like combine this with a timeline.
So it's just a widget on the Fluid
any
dashboard.
Fluid widget, so you can slice and dice your data however you want. You can see over time that we started talking about Keynote back in June. Select on this, makes sense, right? Laura's like
or starting to
starting
get
like,
the
hey
motion
guys,
going.
come on, we got to start moving on this.
Oh my gosh, and we're still always last minute.
Right? Every time. Every time. We can also do other slicing and dicing like with terms, right?
Yeah.
So here's a bunch of search
What's
terms
Andrew?
that we ran. We don't have to look at that
Okay,
one. We
good.
don't have to look at that one.
Why am I a key search term?
So we clicked on Hilton, hotel we're at, right? And this makes some really interesting stuff. You can see we've got internal communications. So this is our internal team helping them getting us set up for logistics, making sure everyone's ready, where to go, what to do, all that fun stuff. So it makes sense that they've got a ton of documents. But we also have this little kind of neighborhood of docs hanging around here at the bottom. And I wasn't really expecting to see this, but then when I looked at it, it makes total sense. So this is like the core Keynote crew.
And oh yeah, Winona.
We got
Grace,
Winona making the deck.
Anna,
Yes, we got the whole
Sean,
crew, right?
Yes.
And so this is about us getting our war room set up upstairs. So the technology just surfaces these docs for us really easily. It's super fun to click around and explore, and it's a great way to get your arms around a data set.
Amazing.
With just clicking and exploring.
And I just can't, and it's amazing. And then when people get like this version of Relativity, they'll just have it, and they can just start using it in all their workspaces.
You got it.
Wow, cool. Thank you, Demo Dan. What do you
Got it.
guys think? Back to the slides, please. Okay, now we're going to preview the work that we're doing in the review core. We all know this, that fundamentally, like, people are changing in the way that they communicate in business. Text messaging and messaging platforms are ubiquitously used. Collaboration tools like Slack and Teams are totally taking off. And people are regularly having full discussions on social platforms, publicly and privately, like my nephew Michael. No one's catching that. Even platforms that are systems of records of all kinds of business processes, like sales CRM and project management tools, have messaging capabilities built into them. This is from our Jira system. This is our system that we use to manage our software development lifecycle. And here's some short messages on some conversation that's on a particular defect. This data is important. And if you look at Relativity, the company, and how we communicate and collaborate with each other, we use 5 core platforms: email, Skype, Slack, Jira, and Asana. And this year, we've actually sent double the amount of Slack messages than we have with emails. And these messages often have attachments to them as well. And if you look at the amount of comments in Jira, there's close to over 500,000 comments in Jira as well. Now, people are well aware that this data is out there, but there's a lot of challenges in managing it within the e-discovery process. And some of our partners have wrestled with it, and they've come up with some really creative solutions to manage it. But because this new form of communication is becoming so prevalent, we believe that it's necessary for us to treat short messages as a first-class concern in Relativity. And so we're working towards making it easy and seamless to review and produce the data coming from these systems. Let us show you how it works. Dan, my man?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so here we have a text conversation from an iPhone that we've loaded into Relativity.
Yes.
Okay, so you can see it looks a lot like you would expect it to look, and we've got support for a ton of the stuff that you would expect. We've got emojis, we've got images, we can preview the images. The entity was right. I do wear that same sweater every year for Keynote.
Every year it looks good.
Speaking of entities, we can hover over this top bar and pull in selected fields from that entity, again, enriching our knowledge and making sure we understand the context of who's communicating. And this is the standard stuff you're used to seeing in a text, but we've kind of like expanded on it, right? So instead of just seeing the participants, you see the number of messages they sent. You see the total number of messages in the entire conversation.
Native.
Spans a year. We can see the total count, the date range. As we scroll through, you can see that we've got this timeline down on the bottom, and it continues to
you
update.
And Woody are like buddies, man.
Yeah, me and Jim, we talk a lot. It's good. So we do talk a bunch about Fest, though, so I'm going to look at documents about Fest. You can see down in the bottom left-hand corner the orange bar. So we highlighted where in the timeline that term hit, And as we hit enter again, we can jump to other instances of that hit. So we can quickly zoom around using the timeline, using terms, scrolling, whatever you want, right?
Cool.
So we don't just have support for text. We're also looking at Slack. So as you mentioned, we've got a ton of Slack data. Here's like a Slack channel of us getting ready for prepping for Fest. For those of you who use Slack, this will look pretty familiar, Teams as well. We've got our messages all left aligned. We've got reaction emojis in here, timeline again.
I love those reactions.
Oh, man. Scroll through, and again, the timeline continues to update for us. It's not just this back and forth communication, though, for the short message. We also have social data like Twitter. So here's like a Twitter view. So here's some tweets, some real tweets, and you can see we've got the avatar support. We've got supports for the number of comments, the number of retweets, the number of likes. And we'll continue to expand on that viewing experience and pump a bunch of data into this flexible message object.
Well, let's talk about it. Like, go back to the slides, please. All right. So we want to like kind of explain on how this data actually gets into the software. So Dan.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, it starts off pretty simple, right? We all know messages. We send these text messages all the time. So one communication from you to somebody else or a group of people is a message, right? You send a text, that's a message.
Okay.
So if we look at a conversation, I finally got like a cartoon head. This is like a big moment.
Takes a lot to get one of those.
Right? It's been like 10 years. So yeah, and you and I have been like working together for like 10 years. So our text conversation would span like 10 years. But a conversation is like a unique group of messages between unique
two individuals, or like a group chat,
your group
or like
chat
a
with your
channel in
college buddies,
Slack.
whatever
Yes,
it is.
Okay, good.
You got it, right? But if we think about it, we got the message, we got the conversation. Those things make a ton of sense to us inherently, right? But if we think about how we would want to try to review those, like you said, we've been working together for like 10 years. Our text history probably goes back pretty far. If somebody was going to say, like, hey, go in and review Dan and Andrew's chat, Slack or text history, it would be really tough to get our arms around it. We need something to help us break things up. So we've got the concept of slices. So we can automatically generate system slices. We can do that based on a day, right? So
time frame,
right? Just, hey, like here's a day, break that up into an individual slice that's easy to review or batch out or code or whatever it may be. We can also look kind of programmatically at breaks in conversation. So it might not just be by day, but there might be a nice concentrated section of text and be like, okay, well, that's a slice.
Yes.
So that might be one way we can do it as well as a system slice.
Yeah.
So there's ways that we can help you out programmatically to make these slices, but we recognize that it's not always going to be that clean. Sometimes these texts are big, sometimes they span different topics, and really what you want to start to do is create that document that's like the unique thing that like when you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's...
So you can create your own slice.
That's the topic. You got it. So now we've got the ability to introduce custom slices where you can look in these conversations, identify a start point, identify an end point, and create a slice.
Ah, cool.
And what gets really powerful then is when we start talking about how we talk. So we've been talking about it with the entity object, right? We don't want to start thinking anymore about like, well, this email, like we don't want to think like that. We want to think about, hey, it's Dan and Andrew, and we're communicating. And we might be communicating on email. We might switch over and be on text. We might have Skype messages. We might have Slack. So we want Relativity to be able to bring this all together. Right?
Multi-channel review.
Multi-channel review. So let's jump.
Let's go back to the thing. Let us show you how it works.
So here we have a multi-channel slice, right?
Okay.
So it's your boy Tommy Boy.
Tommy.
Right? Yep. He's having a chat. Maybe not for long. So he's having a chat with Ray Zielinski, the auto parts king, and Tommy's trying to get some free beers out of Ray, and Ray says, hey, like. We got big things going on. I know we got a contract. Tommy's like, well, but what? And Ray says, well, look, we could make the brake pads over at Zielinski and cut the cost significantly, and you and I can split the cost. Tommy Boy's not so sure. Sees $3 million is the gain. So Tommy Boy seems like he's in, but Ray says, hey man, can you bring along some of your research? Anything we can do is going to help us improve our bottom line. And Tommy says, hey, I'll take a look and see what we've got. And not long after that, we've got an email between Tommy and Ray's personal email addresses where we've got this R&D report, right? And then they jump back over to phone messages where Tommy's like, hey, check your email. The password for that file is 12345.
Very secure.
Yeah, he's got the same combination on his luggage. So again, we're thinking about communicating between people, jumping between channels, but by bringing this all together, we understand the full context of what's happening.
Yeah, so this is like a common piece of feedback. Thank you, Dan.
Got it.
Okay, let's give him a big round of applause.
Yes.
You know, when we've been talking to customers about like this concept, this whole idea of like, okay, hey, we live in this multi-channel world, and how do you help us navigate this? Because this is where, you know, in the world that we live in, finding these type of moments in how people are collaborating are generally when like a hotspot arises, and I think the team is doing a really amazing job there. So, you know, our focus here is on review and production. You know, we really want it to be flexible enough to handle all kinds of short message platforms by normalizing the data into like a normalized schema. We want to be able to handle the long chat histories and give you control of how you want to review the data through all the different ways of like slicing the conversations. And then we want to give you a very clean way, an innovative way to review through multiple channels. So we have sessions on entity store, name normalization, communication analysis, and short messaging over the next few days. Please check them out and shape the future with us. I can't wait to put the power of these capabilities that I talked about today in your hands. And this is just a small fraction of the stuff that we're giving you guys. I got to tell you, it's been an amazing year since we last met, and I'm so excited to spend the next few days with you and really set the stage for the next year, you know, as we work side by side and simplify and accelerate how the whole world conducts e-discovery with an open technology platform that's connected. And together, this community, we can reimagine e-discovery and shape the future. What's the future that you want to create? Thank you to our sponsors who help make Relativity Fest possible. Thank you to our partners for everything you do to show your clients and Relativity users a great experience with the software. Thank you so much, everyone, for everything that you do, for your support, for your patience, for being great stewards of our platform, for your business, for coming to our show. Thank you. Have a wonderful Relativity Fest.